And our belief is that we can enable brands themselves to better and more effectively reach their consumers by creating a behavioral stimulus called cash, by rewarding them for benefiting them for engaging with their brand.
Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast. I'm Zack Miller. A lot of the discussion on this show centers around customer acquisition. You may have a great product or service, but if you can't profitably acquire new customers at scale, you run the risk of being dead in the water. So many of our fintech and a growing number of our financial services guests turn to advertising, specifically Facebook. It's on the social platform that you can target down to niche interests and geographies. And our audience spends lots of money there. Overall, $200 billion will be spent on acquiring customers this way. But what if there was a better way, specifically for retailers, to acquire customers? Dosh may very well be that way. Instead of spending money with an intermediary like Facebook or Google, retailers put money directly in their prospects' wallets through cashback campaigns. Consumers use Dosh to find good deals at stores, and stores use Dosh to acquire good customers based not on cohorts, but on their individual buying behaviors. Dosh CEO Ryan Wuerch is my guest today on the Tearsheet Podcast. Before we continue with our program, I'd like to thank our sponsor, MX, for supporting Tearsheet's work. MX is the leading data platform for banks, credit unions, and fintechs, enabling its clients and partners to easily collect, enhance, analyze, present, and act on financial data.
Hi, Zack. I'm Ryan Wuerch, CEO of Dosh. Dosh is an app that automatically finds cash for consumers when they shop, when they dine, when they travel. Ultimately, Dosh has tens of thousands of merchants all across the United States, from Dunkin' Donuts to Kroger, Pizza Hut, Sam's Club, Forever 21, and thousands more, where consumers today go and shop, and by their shopping, ultimately, cash back is brought back into the wallet that's sitting inside of the Dosh app, so they can spend those dollars wherever they want. Ultimately, there's over $200 billion being spent on advertising each year, and Dosh's entire focus is to move those dollars away from what had historically been spent on television, ads, billboards, or digital ads like you may see on Google and Facebook, and move those advertising dollars directly to people. Dosh is directly connected into the leading card associations, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. So when a consumer downloads the free Dosh app, they put in their credit cards, debit cards, the things they already use, and then they just go and shop. And when they shop normally in their life, whether it's buying gas or buying groceries or getting coffee in the morning or traveling, and they use those cards, Dosh automatically goes out to see if there's an available offer available for them. If there is, takes that, moves it into cash directly into the Dosh subscriber's wallet. They can use those dollars by spending them and transferring them directly to Venmo, to PayPal, or directly to their bank account.
So I just want to get that straight, Ryan. So if I'm a credit card holder and I have a point system, are you doing some type of conversion in the background?
No, what's happening is today, historically, you'll see the largest brands, the places you go shop every day. They're spending advertising dollars trying to get consumers to new consumers to come into their stores, get their current customers to come back more often, or to spend more in their stores. And rather than those brands spending money on a television commercial or on a digital ad, what they're doing is utilizing Dosh to create a new behavior to where you go to a store, you end up getting and knowing you're getting 10% cash back. So what happens is you want to come back more frequently to that store. You feel more loyal to that store. You're actually telling your friends about it. So your friends go to the store, creating new customer acquisition. So instead of those dollars going out on a television commercial, the brands are moving those dollars directly to consumers all through Dosh.
I guess the premise is that advertising is somewhat inefficient, right? Like you're going from advertiser to a specific platform trying to reach the end consumer. Through Dosh, these brands can actually directly impact the end buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. We really believe that today, when you think about what happens November, December, you see the largest companies increasing their ad rates, making more money for themselves. And our belief is that we can enable brands themselves to better and more effectively reach their consumers by creating a behavioral stimulus called cash, by rewarding them for benefiting them for engaging with their brand.
Customer expectations have changed. People are looking to their financial institutions to provide them with experiences that fit their lifestyles. That doesn't mean just dumping data on them. It means providing proactive, personalized, and predictive advice. That's where Money App with Pulse comes in. Developed by MX, the Personal Finance Manager makes it possible to engage customers on every level, from professional budgeters to people who try to avoid personal finance entirely. This can lead to a 60% increase in logins and a 28% increase in NPS. See the MX platform in action. Ask for a demo at MX, that's the letters M and X.com.
Well, do brands run it? So I understand that approach. It's really novel. But are brands concerned about sort of like the Groupon effect, that maybe, being able to reach these consumers, or reaching them with an offer, right? Like a reduction in price at the end of the day, right?
Well, it's not a reduction in price. In fact, the consumer spends the exact same amount. To give you an example, this past weekend, I went to a restaurant. I happened to see that the restaurant was in the Dosh app.
Mm-hmm.
I was in New York City. Went to the restaurant, spent $87 for my meal. And, before the waiter had even come back with my credit card, I'd already got a notification that I had gotten $8.70. Now, that restaurant had before been, sending out flyers, or they had been paying for digital ads on Google. In this case, what happened is because I saw it, I was able to directly engage and be benefited. This is a retail price. This is not something that I'm, buying ahead of time, like, a company like a Groupon, where I'm buying an offer ahead of time and it's a lower price. This is actually just a stimulus for the merchants to say, listen, engage with me, and I'll actually reward you for making a choice to choose my restaurant versus another today.
Got it. And can you give us a little flavor about who the typical user is and typical retailer who might participate on Dosh?
Well, the retailers is some of the ones I just mentioned a few moments ago. Everyone from Dunkin' Donuts to Kroger to Forever 21 to a Sam's Club, thousands of your leading brands across the country, as well as your local restaurants. Here in Austin, I think we have close to 600 just local restaurants here in this area that are inside of the Dosh app, in addition to some of the largest brands that have franchises. We choose to go to Pizza Hut because it happens to be in the Dosh app. So those are some of the restaurants, some of the brands that are inside of the Dosh app as it relates to people. And that's the most exciting part for me, is because everyone can benefit. One thing that I found is no matter how much money someone has or how little, we're actually all the same. We'd all just keep the money in our pockets if we could. So whether it's a person like myself that's on a business trip, and this weekend, I was in New York City for business, and ended up booking my hotel room at a hotel in New York City. The price was $239. It was the very best price you could buy it for online at any number of the online sites. As well, in the Dosh app, I was able to book my hotel, pay the exact same price I could have gone anywhere else. The difference is I got $76 in cash back. Now, how did that happen? That happened because typically today, your largest online travel companies are spending billions and billions of dollars. In fact, two in particular spend over $10 billion every single year. We said, why would we want to spend over $10 billion in advertising trying to reach people? Why wouldn't we move those same dollars, that margin that those companies typically have? We'll move it directly to our consumers. So in that case, your audience is a business traveler that historically have been booking a trip, using their credit card and paying the very best price, but trying also to get the most benefit from their dollars. In this case, the benefit here happens to be cash, not points. You also have, an example is a Dosh subscriber who was able to use the cash back she earned with Dosh to fly her mom across the country to see her first granddaughter born. Just saw a post on Facebook the other day, a mom in Little Am, Texas, who started doing her monthly grocery shopping at Kroger when Kroger launched on the DOP app. Even though it was further away from the store she usually shopped at, she made a decision to, instead of going to the 3 and 4 grocery stores that she had typically gone to in a month, she said, I'm going to give all of my loyalty to Kroger, because on her first purchase, she was getting 10% cash back. The purchases thereafter was 5% cash back on the entire basket. That's an example there. Another one is we just launched hotels in the app in July. We already have one subscriber who happens to be a business traveler, has already received over $4,000 in cash back from booking hotels inside of the app.
Those are great stories. I'm sure you have tons of them, and like friends probably like, oh no, okay, Ryan, another story. But you mentioned just launching travel. Can you talk about, I guess, the lead up to launch, why you decided on that category? I know you alluded to a few of the benefits there, but like sort of from a product point of view, where did travel fit into, I guess, your overall plans?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, the mission of our company is to positively impact millions of people's lives by moving billions of dollars to them. Our whole focus is to democratize advertising for the benefit of people everywhere. So where are some of the biggest areas that is happening every day? Well, obviously, everywhere we're on a monthly basis where we're shopping, where we're dining, that's one area. But another area is around travel. In fact, travel today is one of the largest spend as it relates to advertising today. Well over $10 billion from 2 companies alone are spent annually just trying to reach consumers. So we said, why don't we do something different? And instead of taking all that margin that had historically been taken by 1 or 2 companies, we'll take that margin and we'll move it directly to people. Ultimately, the budget's coming directly from the margins they make off of consumer bookings, and OTA companies have been using the generous coupons that they make off of consumers' bookings to generate sizable profits and then ultimately pump money into advertising to their benefit. What we're doing is we're changing all that by putting that advertising spend into the millions of consumers' pockets as cashback.
Interesting. And Ryan, can you talk about sort of the interface from on the business side? If you're a hotel in New York, or like what does the interface look like? How do they run a card linked offer on Dosh?
So you have 2 parts. One, we have some of the largest wholesalers from around the world where all the hotel industry is moving their inventory. Mm-hmm. We have those directly integrated into Dosh. So on the case of travel, we have those hotel brands directly in the Dosh app. That is something that we have built our own travel platform specifically for that integration. How it gets exposed is through the hotels, and then ultimately our engine is in real time when you're searching for that hotel, it's taking the very best retail price in the marketplace, ultimately the very best wholesale price. At the same time, that entire differential, which would be considered margin, we then take and move that to consumers. On the side of the thousands of brands, restaurants, places you shop, the merchant has a dashboard that they're able to see the things that they want to ultimately target. So one merchant may want to target new customer acquisition. Because we are directly integrated into the card associations, American Express, Visa, and MasterCard, all this happens in real time. And so with that, we know whether or not you have been into, let's say, a Forever 21 or not. Through that cash back, whether it be 5% or 10%, whatever the amount that the brand ultimately wants to give back to the consumer, we're able to see, did that 10% actually drive a new customer acquisition for them? It may be that a merchant or brand wants better retention. They want more loyalty from their consumers. So inside of that, that dashboard is where they're able to see how much more frequent is a consumer coming back into their store. They may have been averaging 1.2 times a month. Now we're able to show, because of the cashback stimulus, you're coming back 1.8 times a month. This is something that digital advertising has never been able to do. Because we're right at the transaction, we know definitively whether or not you've been in the store. We know whether or not you've come back more frequently. We know how much your average order value has been. Does that cash stimulus ultimately create an opportunity for you, the consumer, to spend more money there because you're getting this stimulus? It is becoming the most effective. We call it transaction-based advertising, the most effective way to spend an advertising dollars and reach a consumer. And for us as a company, we create a very protected, very secure environment where the brand and the merchant will never be able to know, A, it's you, and never have access to you. Everything is done on a cohort basis.
And how does Dosh make money?
So we share in that cashback. So
makes sense.
The merchants of brands, what they will do is they will pay Dosh a fee to be able to be on the platform itself. That's in the side of the thousands of merchants and brands across the country. The side of hotel, all of that margin that's kept, we give the majority of the margin to the consumer, and we keep a small portion for ourselves on each transaction.
And how much money have you given back to consumers since you guys launched?
So approximately, we launched October 2017, so not quite 2 years yet, and we have now moved approximately $60 million already directly into our subscribers' wallets. Those dollars, which would historically have been going to radio and television or to digital ads, we've moved approximately $60 million directly into Dosh consumers' wallets.
Is it fair to say you've processed over close to $1 billion in transactions then, given that number?
So we every day we're watching, tens of millions of dollars being able to be moved on behalf of our brands and merchants. And those millions of dollars ultimately are being done because of this cash stimulus that's being provided to consumers.
Very smart model. In the remaining time, we have time for one last question, Ryan. Like, what are you thinking about product and marketing for the future? Like, what should we look out for from Dosh second half of this year? Where's your head looking into the end of 2019?
Yeah, continuing to see more and more merchants and brands coming on the platform. We're very enthused as well. Dosh is being integrated into one of the leading fintech companies, where you'll be able to their consumers will be able to have Dosh from their everyday purchases as well. Something else that you'll continue to see through the course of 2019, then ultimately in 2020, is where you're going to be seeing in your experience, your Dosh experience, things that are more about you, because you every day are going to certain restaurants or you're going to certain stores. And we're wanting to make sure that the experience that you have when you open up the Dosh app is all about you. I'm giving you things that you're interested in, and ultimately the things that you want versus the things that you don't.
And what about user acquisition? Like, how are you ramping this thing as you guys continue to grow?
Well, it's been really exciting. Just this past year, we became the #1 app in the App Store of all apps. We saw approximately 10 million people engaging with the Dosh app. Again, we're just shy of 2 years, and all of that has happened through word of mouth, through people telling other people about Dosh. And it's one thing that I always say, free money has a way of sharing itself. And so when you're getting something for free, you and I are out for lunch today, and I pay for lunch, and then a little notification pops up my phone saying that I just got $6.47. It becomes real easy for me to be able to say to you, have you heard of the Dosh app? It literally finds me free cash when I go and shop, dine, and travel.
Ryan, thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet Podcast today.
Thank you so much, Zack.